Welcome to our Nodegrid device management demonstration. Over the next couple of minutes, we'll show you how you can use standard orchestration tools like Ansible Tower or AWX and Nodegrid system tools which exist on every single Nodegrid appliance to deploy end devices. Especially will we look at how we can use Ansible Tower or AWX to orchestrate the entire zero-touch provisioning process of a bare metal server. In this case, we will install Rancher on a bare metal server. We will use a rack PDU to power control the system and to restart it. And we will use Docker to host an iPXE environment as well as a cloud init environment for the Rancher system. Quite obviously, what you will require for specific end devices to zero-touch provisioning them will change from system to system. Because of that, Nodegrid has a wide variety of different onboard tools which you can use. In general, they enable you to connect to target devices, to host files, to orchestrate these processes through scripts, or they allow you, for example, as well to use orchestration tools like Ansible, many other tools to connect to end devices and orchestrate the entire process. So in this case, again, we will use iPXE Cloud Init, which are hosted on the Docker environment, to deploy Rancher on a bare metal server. So let's start with a demo. What you see here is a login interface of the Nodegrid appliance. I just want to show you briefly that we have already a management device configured for the Rancher server, which is currently offline. So it's currently not configured. And I just open up the KVM session now to show you that the server is currently not running. It's just sitting somewhere on a boot prompt. Now let's jump over to AWX. I have here a template which will configure the Nodegrid to deploy the entire PXE boot or zero-touch provisioning environment. In our scenario, this contains two Docker images, one to host the iPXE server and another one to host the configuration for the Rancher server. Both are hosted on the Nodegrid and will orchestrate the deployment of the server. So if we jump back now to the Nodegrid applications, you can see that the two Docker appliances were deployed and that they are both running currently. Now let's jump back to the KVM interface. So you can see the server is at its boot prompt. We are now using the rack PDU to power cycle the server. What we're going to see now in the KVM interface is how the server reboots. We will see the entire boot process, starting with the BIOS, going through the PXE boot process, and then how it pulls the configuration from the configuration Docker container. That entire process will take a few minutes. In general, again, the time it takes to deploy a system will hugely depend on what you're doing. Specifically here, we are pulling actually the Rancher image directly from the internet. Again, you can host those files locally on the Nodegrid as well. Specifically, that would be useful if you have a very slow internet connection or where you're unsure about the internet connection which is available to you. In my case, I decided to directly pull it from the internet. So as we can see here, the system is done. And if we go back now to the Nodegrid web interface, we will see that the management interface is now available. And that allows us to navigate to the web interface of the new Rancher instance. As you can see, Rancher was successfully deployed. I would now have to configure Rancher, fully deploy it, finalize the configuration. But essentially the system is now available through its standard management interfaces, and I can now use my standard orchestration tools to finalize the configuration of the system.